Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Where Does It Come From podcast. This is the first episode from series 2, and I'm really excited to have two very special guests with me, Kitty Wilson-Brown and Claire O'Sullivan, who have started up Contemporary Hempery, and they're all about growing hemp for fibre in the UK. So, first of all, ladies, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
An absolute pleasure. So I think the main thing is to tell people about yourself. Who wants to go first?
Shall I go first?
No volunteers, I will. Okay, so Kitty, tell us about your background and what gave you the idea to start growing and processing hemp in the UK?
Okay, well, so yes, my name's Kitty. I'm a textile artist. I think I've always been really passionate about fabrics and fashion, and I studied BA Textile Design at Chelsea College of Art, UAL. I think I was always really, really aware with how damaging the fashion industry is. So I think that was like a big part of me through uni, and it's really hard to like create new fabrics in a world that sometimes doesn't really need new fabrics. So yeah, anyway, after I graduated, I was kind of looking for my next step and a next project, and it was actually over a glass of wine with Claire. I think we just started talking about hemp, and then we were like, shall we grow some hemp? And I think it's been always amazing for me as a weaver to like start with a thread and produce fabric, and now I've taken it like one step further, like it's from a seed, so it's really exciting for me in that way.
It's that transparency, isn't it? That you're actually starting right at the very beginning.
Like the whole life cycle of this of fabric, which is super exciting.
And Chelsea's a really interesting background as well, because anyone listening knows that we're very much tied up with our charity partner Cardi London, who have a partnership with Chelsea as well. So it's wonderful to have these kind of connections. So Claire, tell us about your background and what interested you in hemp.
Well, my background actually is working with metal and minerals, because in truth, I'm a jeweler, not a fibre person at all. But as Kitty said, it was really over quite a brief conversation we had just about this time last year, actually. Kitty said, I've always wanted to work with hemp. And I said, let's grow some. And then here we are, just this really short amount of time later, we've grown it, we've harvested it, and we're in the process of processing it. So it's been an incredible project. It's just rolled under its own steam almost. We feel as if, yes, obviously we've instigated it, but then we're just almost running along behind it. It's got such a lot of legs.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because I think it's something that needed to be done, and you're not the only one, but you're a key one. And like you say, it's such a short window since you had the idea, and I bet it was a bottle of wine and not a glass of wine.
I don't like to say that.
But it's just that idea came. Everyone went yes, because as soon as I heard it, I was really excited. Living in Suffolk as you do, and then the hemp growing in Suffolk, it's just such a fascinatingly exciting thing.
It came at a time in my life where I had some space. I had just moved. I hadn't really got into other projects and other sort of full-time work, and so I was able to really you just go, well, this sounds like a good idea, and just expand it without having to really worry too much. And we were just lucky with everybody who we approached was just keen for us to do what we wanted to do.
The timing is absolutely right. And as you've told me this yourself, that hemp in the UK has an amazingly rich history. I mean, going back hundreds of years, hemp was the fibre that we grew in the UK. So tell us a bit about that, and why did we stop growing it, and why do you think now is the time to start again?
Well, hemp has always been grown in the UK. This is the only century, in fact, which we haven't grown it. So what we're doing is really reviving something, certainly not starting something new. Where we are in North Suffolk, there was what was called a great hemp belt from Eye to Beccles, where 8% of the entire UK's hemp production came from this really small river valley. Absolutely extraordinary. So as well as being grown very commercially, it was also very much a cottage industry. So all the cottages, agricultural workers would grow their own little patch of hemp, process it, weave it within the cottages as extra income from themselves. And there are actually there are records of, so in my local town, Diss, there's a big mere in the middle, or a big pond, and they do these, what do they call it, when you put down, take out a whole tube of sediment. And they've found pollen from hemp right back to 1000 AD.
Wow.
All the way through from there. So the Anglo-Saxons grew it for their clothes. The medieval, up to 1000, the medieval times, it became really popular. Up to, I went to a talk recently where a guy was talking about in the 10 and 1100s, there was a huge amount of hemp grown around here, and they've got records of that. They've even got records of people being prosecuted for retting hemp in public waters in those eras, because of course that poisons the water. So there's lots of record of it going on, and in fact the industry didn't really die out around here until the 1920s. So it's not even really 100 years ago. People were still making fine linen, particularly in a village called Northlopam, which is not far from here, right up until 1925.
It is amazing. And I know a lot with Where Does It Come From, my work with Cardi London, we talk a lot about cotton farming, obviously cotton farming, especially in India and Africa and places like that. And again, it's that traditional cottage industry, letting people stay living rurally rather than having to commute to towns, doing the fabric processing in it very much to support other work through the year. And it's part of a cycle of life, isn't it?
It is. However, I would say that one of the reasons, there are two main reasons that the growing of hemp and flax in this area actually died out. One, of course, was cheap cotton imports from India, cotton and jute. That instigated the Industrial Revolution in the north of the UK, where these terrible mills went up. But as well as that, it coincided with the Napoleonic Wars, and which pushed the price of wheat up. So obviously farmers want to grow whatever's most profitable. So they stopped growing hemp and started growing wheat. I mean, it's just parallels with where we are now. I mean, war and prices is what changes history.
I was thinking the same thing. Economics, it's that economics as well. I mean, and politics. So thinking about the India cotton situation, that was purely political, wasn't it? So basically Britain was controlling India and told them they could not process their own cotton. All of the cotton would be exported to the UK. So that made problems for the Indian people, who couldn't then grow their own cotton and had to buy expensive imports of cotton. And of course, it's a problem for the UK, because it was great for the people who could
own the mills,
and all of that, but all of the hemp growing infrastructure died. So we're importing a crop to make fabric when we've got perfectly good crops to grow fabric. It's just a load of
which we can do again. This is the whole point, isn't it? We're trying to take that cycle right back to where we can grow our own fibre crops here in the UK, which we're in the process of proving that we can do.
Exactly. No, it's absolutely amazing what you're both doing. And I think I love as well the fact that you've got the two of you as such an amazing team. So you've got Claire was obviously up there with it growing, and then Kitty has this experience of textile creation. It's just a lovely team.
Yes, great.
We're saying that now is a great time to start this again. And for me, the reason I think it's a great time to start again is the whole, sustainable fashion. We need to do things more sustainably. We need to be able to grow things more locally and cut down on miles and everything. I wondered if you had any thoughts about that, both of you.
Yeah, I think there's quite a lot of reasons why we should be growing hemp for textiles in the UK. I think for people who don't know that much about hemp, hemp has actually got a really deep root system that can reach minerals that most plants can't, which actually revives the soil. So we destroyed the soil in this country from chemicals and pesticides and all the other things. So growing this crop can actually help revive the soil. When we first started doing this project, we thought that hemp was carbon neutral, but it's actually carbon positive. So actually, as a crop, it is one of the most sustainable crops to grow. And as we know, the textile and fashion industry can be so damaging, and so but through fashion, by growing this crop, we could be saving the soil and helping the planet. So I think that is a really good reason why we should be doing it. I think another important part of our project is that people think that fabric just exists, and cloth has kind of lost its value a lot in the fashion industry due to fast fashion and so many other things, and the kind of the throwaway society we live in. So kind of educating people this whole process from field to fabric to fashion, I think it's really interesting for people to connect with fabrics and fashion again.
Definitely. And funnily enough, I was meeting with Ipswich and Colchester Museum yesterday, because they're doing a exhibition on this, and both Contemporary Hempery and Where Does It Come From are going to be in that exhibition, which is opening on the 22nd of October.
Yeah.
And I think what was exciting talking to the curators yesterday, they love that whole story. They love the fact that we can say this hemp grew here or this cotton grew here and this is what happened to it. And they're wanting people to come in there, not so they can preach to them, but so they can actually, people will actually think, I hadn't even thought about that. I hadn't thought about where something grew or how it was processed or any of those impacts. So that, again, it makes you think it's the right time, isn't it?
Certainly.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's all the real positive stuff. Now I'm going to ask you some of the tricky things. Like, so what are the current barriers to growing hemp for fibre in the UK, and why haven't people done it before?
Well, of course, in order to grow industrial hemp in the UK, which is the variety that we need for fibre, you do have to get a licence from the Home Office. The most difficult thing about getting the licence actually is mentally getting over the fact that you've got to get it, because it seems so utterly absurd. But once you've kind of climbed that mountain, the actual process of applying for it, I found really wasn't that difficult. I had to be quite persistent. The website crashes constantly, whether that's on purpose or not, I don't know. So, you have to be pretty persistent with phoning them and emailing them and talking to them. They're very keen to know that nobody's going to see the hemp growing.
Okay.
Because, if anyone sees hemp growing in this country, the whole of society could break down. And no one will go to work, the school system will break, transport will come to a halt, and no one will pay the taxes, and the whole thing will collapse. So we have to make sure that there aren't footpaths crossing your land or next to a main road. Luckily for us, the place where we're growing ticked all those boxes. Also, they're very, very, very keen to know, what will you do with the flowers and the seeds? Because those are the bits that people might make CBD oil from, and they don't want you to do that. So because we're growing in this beautiful agroforestry site, everything that grows there remains there if it's not being used. So we're composting all those other pieces and leaving them on the land. So I was able to explain that to them, and they once they've got those two things down, that it wasn't going to be seen, and they knew what we were going to do with the excess pieces. Actually, the rest of the process was pretty simple, and it came through quite easily.
Well, that's good. That's
yeah.
I mean, it's interesting that they don't want anyone to see it, because I suppose they're imagining if it's by the side of a road, a car's going to draw up and everyone's going to get out and get stoned. And
they think it's marijuana, yeah. But of course, this variety that we're growing, in order to get the license, you have to tell them which variety you're getting, where you're getting it from. And so all these industrial hemp varieties do not have any THC in them. So you can smoke it all you like.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Just get a sore throat.
Yeah, for it to be legal in this country with a license, it's got to be 0.3% THC. So you could literally smoke a whole acre if you want, and nothing is going to happen to you. Like, you cannot get high from it.
Can you imagine all these people having a big party going, "Oh, this is great! I feel so good," and everything. But it's not.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that it was been said by the government is they were worried that people would plant industrial hemp, that other people might go into the field and plant some, plants that did have THC. I find that a completely erroneous argument. I mean, it's absurd. I think if you speak to the police or to the Home Office, you'll find that there's huge amounts of marijuana being consumed in this country. Lots of it's being grown in this country in, these kind of houses where people have got the hydroponic systems going in attics and so on. Otherwise, it must be pouring in through our ports. So the thought that we wouldn't grow industrial hemp just in case somebody might put one or two plants in the middle of the field, I'm afraid that doesn't really wash with me.
Yeah, and also as growers, you're going to notice if something like that changes as well, aren't you? You're going to notice.
Well, there's that, and also in order to get good fibre, which is what our project is all about, and what anyone growing fibre, we would be cutting the plants before they flower anyway. So if you went into the field, you had one in there, planted some high THC plants, come back 2 months later, you would find a big cut down anyway. So, it would be a little bit of a waste of time all round.
Yeah. So basically, it's strange. I did notice last week that some of the government are trying to push marijuana cannabis up to be a grade A drug, aren't they? Make it even more illegal. So make it more stringent on that.
I think there are possibly other reasons for that as well. I mean, obviously, if you are able to get the license to grow the high THC plant, the profits are just absolutely astronomical. And in fact, in the UK, we do grow a huge amount of medical marijuana. It's all under glass list, so it's grown in Norfolk.
Yeah, I read a fact the other day that the UK is the biggest seller for THC cannabis for medicinal uses. So that's pretty mental to think that it is grown here in the UK.
But we can't use it. It can only be exported.
All being exported. Very bizarre. Yeah. I think it's a good time to do a shout out to Wakelins as well, because I know they're amazing. So if anyone from Wakelins, it's up in North Suffolk, organic eco agriculture farm. It's an amazing place to visit, so I recommend people go and visit if they can.
Yes, anyway, and it's also, I want to say about Wakelins is that it really is an experimental place, and that David Wolf, who owns and manages the farm, he is interested to encourage new projects and to get people to grow new and different crops there. For instance, I've got to give you this for instance, they were the first people to grow lentils in Suffolk. And having proved that it worked, there are now 12 different farms in this region that grow lentils. So that is where he's at. He's a really amazing man. Amazing. And he's just got a great outlook and encouraging new projects.
That's amazing. No, I loved it being up there. You felt like you were sort of stepping back in time and forward in time.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Yes, that's a really good description.
It just came to me. It is exactly how it felt. I mean, I think you and I discussed, Claire, when we were up there, it's the number of insects and things that are around.
Absolutely. You feel it, don't you? You feel
the
weight of life.
There is just
live, isn't it? It's alive.
It's alive.
Oh, bloody hell, insects. But actually it was a wonderful feeling. It took me back to childhood in a way, having all
absolutely. Insects,
birds. It's just proof that system does work so well. Like we don't need all these other things.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny enough, I did the last podcast that I did at the end of the last series, so just before the summer, was with an actor called Paul Baisley and Asher, who is Asher Bush, who's one of our Cardi spinners, and we were just talking about the whole journey from the land. And Paul, who is a very keen pacifist and Gandhian, he was talking about turning things on their head so that we revere the connection to the land rather than the opposite, which is now to distance ourselves away from anything to do with the land. So really, just like you two are doing, getting your hands dirty, being in there with the soil and creating things like that, as opposed to currently our kind of commercial society is all around let's not tell people about the land, let's not talk about the dirt, let's make it all about flashy
things in a packet. It's the same with the food production, isn't it?
Very much.
Just get something in a packet all wrapped in plastic, whether it's meat or vegetables in the supermarket, and you don't feel that connection to where it's actually come from.
I think it's just so far away from that now, that to the point where people might not even make the connection that the fabric they've got came from a plant, or how if it's knitted, if it's woven, just exists.
They don't question it at all. But that's training. We've been trained by advertising, by education, you don't need to think about that. You can buy that, because that, if you haven't got that connection, then you don't care if you throw it away. You don't care if you waste it. You don't care what you buy something cheap, you don't value it, you throw it away. Whereas if you've got those connections, then that deeper feeling, and you're not going to want to just chuck it away. You're going to love it. When you've got stuff, I'm going to be there buying your hemp and go, oh, I'm wearing Suffolk hemp, it's so cool.
Can't wait to wear it ourselves.
So the next question I was going to ask you, because I first got in touch with you guys sort of earlier when you were planting. I think I went out there when Claire was actually doing the planting stage, and it's been so fast, hasn't it? It seemed to grow monumentally over the summer. And if you think about how hot this summer was as well, it seems to have been hugely successful. So can you tell us a little bit about, right from the beginning, from the glass of wine all the way through to having what you have now?
So it was, so I think we did do 2 sowings. We did one sowing at the end of May, and then we did another sowing. It was the 7th of June, I think it was, and it was just amazing to watch this crop grow. It grew so quickly. We didn't, even in the extreme weather we had this year, it grew 2.6 centimeters a day We didn't water it. We didn't do anything to it. We've had really extreme heat, and it grew beautifully. How many days was it, Claire, in the end till we harvested it?
The oldest one was
Almost
84 days, I think it was.
84 days. Yeah.
So the other one was like about 16 days younger than that. So in fact, the both sowings, well, the second sowing caught up with the first sowing. It was a little bit behind on the developing flowers, but it was pretty much the same height. And as Kitty said, we didn't water it. We didn't need to fertilize it, had no pesticide. It just grew. It was absolutely phenomenal.
Grew. And it was amazing. We could walk down the middle of it in the sunshine, and it felt like it was like a full hemp jungle. You could get lost in it. It was such a magical experience, and the smell, and the insects loved it, but didn't cause any harm to it. It was a really fun few months, actually, seeing that plant grow.
Anyone who's listening, if you go to the Contemporary Hempery Instagram account, there's videos and photos showing all of this.
Yeah.
It was a phenomenon. I mean, I would try to go up there once a week, because it's only a couple of miles for me, and with my little tape and measure it. And every week I get there and go, oh my God, I can't believe it. Until it got to the point where, I was trying to get my tape up like this, because it was all 6 foot. Some of those real bandit plants were like 8 foot tall.
Oh my goodness.
And they had done that in 84 days.
It's crazy. So what did you do?
Absolutely phenomenal.
Why did you decide to, when was it time to cut it, and what did you do with it then?
So for the our aim of our project is we want to produce high quality, soft, fine fibre. So we researched this, and we found out that to get this fibre, you need to cut it just before it flowers. So as we started to see it flower, we did a harvesting day, which was super, super fun. We had loads of friends and family and volunteers come up. The sun was shining, and we had a reciprocal cutter, which is kind of like a lawnmower with blades on the front to cut it down. And we just have it. It was as much as a fun day it was. That was actually really sad to cut this magical forest down, but yeah, that's when we harvested it.
Yeah, well, we definitely learned that you don't want to let it flower at all if you can avoid it. Cut it before it flowers. We've experimented with the processing, and definitely the younger plants were just marginally softer.
So you've got these big stalks then. What happens after that?
So we left them to dry, because it's important to let them dry before retting. And we experimented with both dew retting and water retting. So to see what the difference was, because this year for us was all about experimentation. We had no idea what we were going to get. There's not a lot of research out there, so we're like, let's just do it ourselves and research it that way. And also it was interesting because all the people who are doing similar things with flax in the UK, like a similar movement with flax, every single one of them seemed to be dew retting. I haven't so far come across anyone who's water retting, but I did hear that you get two very different colours with that, and you did with the water retting. We found that we got a lot lighter fibre compared to the dew retting.
Can you explain the difference between the two, just for case people
yeah. So dew retting is where you leave it on the field. It's meant to take up to 6 weeks, where you're meant to turn it so the dew wets the outside, which is basically decomposing the fibres. So when you process them, they become loose. And water retting, we built like a DIY sort of pond, because the problem with water retting is you're not meant to put it in ponds or rivers or anything like that, because it can poison the water and poison the marine life. So it was really important that we didn't do that. So we built like a DIY pond that we can take to pieces again, and compacted all the hemp stems in, and it started to ret in 5 days. That was all. And we find that method, we got beautiful golden fibre from doing the water retting. So I think we are going to do more water retting next year.
But Claire did tell me that was a bit smelly.
Oh yeah, it was a bit smelly.
It wasn't too.
We don't mind smelling a bit.
Because we only left it in there for 5-6 days, actually the water wasn't too bad at that point, and it smelled like, if you leave a vase of flowers and you just leave them in there, so it's that kind of rotting stink. But so we took the stalks out, left them to dry again, but we didn't empty the pond, and we just left it there. By now, I can tell you that has got a proper hum on it. Really, really stings. So I'm kind of leaving David to get his pump and sort that out. So anyway, once we'd got that out there, we dried it all again, and we had made these sort of A-frames and dried it all in the sun. And then we had to actually make the tools that we needed. Luckily, Kitty's father and her grandfather stepped up and made these fantastic breakers. So it's a three-step
traditional.
Really great. So it's a three-step process. First of all, you have to use this big, heavy kind of bashing machine, a tool where you put the stalks under and bash the lid down on it, and just to break up that inner core, which is called the shiv. That's a hard woody core. The fibres we want are on the outside. Mm-hmm. Once you've done that, bashed it through 2 different sizes of breakers to make it finer and finer. Then the next process is called scrutching, where you've got just a plank of wood, basically hold the fibre in one hand and you hit it with a big stick on the other. It's a really basic process. You're hitting it with a stick, and that removes all the last bits of shiv that are stuck in and kind of smooths it. I think with plant fibres, the more you hit it, the better. And then you would end up with this big bushy amount of fibres, and then we have to pull it through what are called heckling combs, which are made out of horseshoe nails and bits of it. They look like medieval torture tools, actually, pretty evil looking. So just pulled it through that until, you end up with this golden, beautiful fibre. It was really great, actually, to see it emerge.
Yeah.
It's going to be amazing. So the next stage is
spinning. So we're going to hopefully, we haven't got a date for this yet, but we're going to have another event day where we're going to get loads of spinners, hopefully from all over the place with different backgrounds and different methods, and come and spin and share different techniques, which will be good. And me and Claire are going to learn to spin as well, because that's the only bit I'm not fully confident with yet. So I want to be able to do like the whole entire process. That's the last bit for me. I need to learn, which is really cool. And then it will go on to, after we've got some yarn, I'm going to explore with natural dyes and producing some samples.
How wonderful. And how much do you think I know it's really difficult to say, but how much fabric do you think you'll actually get?
This is a question I keep getting asked, and I cannot answer it yet. For me as well, I think till it's spun into yarn, I can't visualize how much fabric I can produce. And it's really annoying me actually now, because I've been asked like this question so many times. I really want to know, but this is the one we're yet to work out.
I mean, we weighed the stalks that we're going to process on the processing day, and then we know how much fibre we've got out of it, but we think we wasted quite a lot. We could, but next year we will do it slightly differently.
Learning.
We didn't quite finish that amount on the day, and it's incredibly difficult to get good data on that. I mean, we're going to have some kind of rough figures, but we really can't be very accurate. And as Kitty says, until she's spun it, till it's been spun, there's no way of knowing how much we can actually, what fabric we can make.
This is a good time to shout out the Festival of Natural Fibres this weekend.
Yes.
Where we'll all be. And we're going to get some of our resident spinners, Asha and Soumya and some of the others, to actually have a go at spinning this hemp and see.
Great. That's so exciting.
To learn how to spin as well, aren't you? So
really excited.
Good. So if anyone is interested in coming along, it's this coming Saturday and Sunday, the 8th and 9th of October. Sorry if you're listening to this afterwards, you missed it. But there's you can find out what we got up to. It's in central London, it's in Docklands, London Docklands. So it'd be great if you could come along and join us. But we try and do it annually, so you can come along next year if you've missed this year. So that's all really exciting. I'm very excited about all this, and I can't wait to have a look at it and see what it's going to come out like as fabric. I know that there's been a huge amount of interest in your project, and someone has actually approached you and you started making a movie. So how did that come about, and what's happening there?
So this was when we first started the project. We were like, oh my god, we need to make a documentary on this. Like, it's really cool what we're doing. Like, we would love to have this documented on film. Just kind of thinking, find a filmmaker who wants to do something, maybe put it on YouTube or something like that. And I have quite a few friends who work in the film industry at the moment, and one of my really good friends was away on a job, and she was speaking to the film director at the time, Ed, incredible human being, and was just basically explaining my project. And he was really, really passionate about hemp, and I got in contact with him, like thinking maybe he would like put someone, his intern or someone lower down, maybe wanted to do the film. And he was like, no, I want to do this film. We're going to make a documentary, make the series. And yeah, he's just been amazing. We couldn't be a more of a perfect human to work with as well. He is incredible. So the aim is to make a 6-episode series. Obviously the whole thing will be about our story and our project from field to fabric to fashion. But each episode we're going to dedicate it to something else as well, because hemp can do everything, right? So we're going to do it to the medicinal sides, the construction sides, and yeah, so give everyone else sort of a platform for the amazing hemp work they're doing in the UK as well.
Brilliant. And it's such a great way of, again, sharing that story and letting people understand what's going on. And you know, I think raising awareness of hemp and its history. So it's a brilliant. So do you know when that'll be ready? Do we sign up for that now?
Well, we've got this year's footage together, and then we're going to send off a deck in the next few months and see what happens with it. So watch our space.
Yeah, no, there's so much interest in sustainability and regenerative fashion and that kind of thing. So I think it could be great to see it on, you know, the BBC or somewhere like that. It'd be really amazing, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would.
Yeah.
I get your autographs now. These ladies will be in it first. Okay, so the next question is, what is next, and are you going to do it all again next year?
Oh
yes, we
definitely.
are 100%.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I think we've learned a lot this year about, you know, obviously the whole thing was about experimenting with the growing and the processing. So we've learned a lot, and we're definitely going to do it again next year. I'm really hoping that we'll be able to do a little bit more. We've only did 1 alley, so it's about 0.7 of an acre this year. We'd like to do more. But of course, unless we can get some kind of mechanical processing going, there's no way we can hand break, scratch and heckle much more than that. You know, we wouldn't have the time and the manpower. So that really what we need to do between now and then is either find some investment or find a way of getting some mechanical processing. That is the thing that's missing in this country. We know we can grow it. We know we could sell the final product. That's not a problem. There's this central part of mechanization that's been completely disappeared. Yes. And that's what the government maybe, or someone needs to come in with some money and get that sorted out. And then we could be growing away, no problem at all. And as well as growing for our own fibre, we're approached by Material Cultures, who are architects and run the master's degree at Central, because they want to come up to Wakelands and grow a little house as part of their master's project. So if we can grow more, then this is a perfect collaboration. We take the fibre, they get the shear, which is the bit that you need for the architectural products. And then we're not wasting any of it. We don't want to waste it. That's working in tandem.
So the ship would be like our co-product. So
exactly.
We're just collaborating, and none of this plant's going to go to waste.
But that's what you want, isn't it? Don't want any waste at all. Going back to the mechanisation, Claire, I meant to say that earlier because I remember many years ago, one of the festivals of fibres, talking to a chap who runs Bish, which is a company up north that makes fabrics out of hemp and organic cotton mixed together, and they import currently the hemp. And I remember him saying one of the real barriers to having any kind of hemp production in the UK is the mechanization. All of the machines that exist for cotton don't work with hemp, and it just isn't anywhere in the UK currently that has things.
I mean, we wondered if any of the linen mills would get involved, but we contacted a couple, but they didn't seem to be in the least bit interested. But you know, maybe time will come. We're going up to a meeting in November at Harrison Spinks, a special interest group for hemp fibre growers. So you know, there's stuff happening. I feel there's a groundswell, and that's going to make change.
I do really think by next year as well that we will have a mill that, even on a small scale, will spin some hemp in a mill for us, professionally spun. So I really do. Things are moving, things are happening, and I really do think that's going to be an option for next year.
I think you're right to be optimistic, because I think there's been so much interest, and we know that one of the barriers is this mechanization. If there can be some kind of investment into that, then that's something that's giving an opportunity for other people to apply their minds to it and solve the problem. You know, if they're given the investment and the opportunity, that's something that can definitely happen, and fairly quickly.
I have actually heard, you Joe know a girl called Rosie Bristow? I understand that she is currently working with some master's students, engineering students, to create some I don't know whether it's breaking or spinning or what it is, but she's getting involved with making machines to make the system work better. So it is on the way.
I'm not sure she's coming at the weekend. Certainly there'll be people that will know a bit more about that will be there at the Festival of Natural Fibres at the weekend. So yeah, I mean, it's just an obvious thing, isn't it? It's the next stage, getting engineering involved and
sure,
learning how to build that. So yeah, I think Kitty's right to be, both of you are right to be optimistic that next year will bring new things, which is very exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, I reckon that anyone who's listened as far as this will be dying to know how they can find out more about you. So do you want to tell us a little bit more about how people can get in touch with you or read about you or any of those things?
So at the moment we're just having our website sorted out, so hopefully in the next few weeks that will be up and running, but for the moment, best to our Instagram is at Contemporary Hempery, or if you want to get in touch, you can email us at hello@contemporaryhempery.com. And yeah, our website should be up and running in the next few weeks. So,
and who would you like to contact you?
Anyone who's interested.
Anyone. Yeah, people with lots of money that want to invest in machinery, and people who are really experienced in spinning plant fibres.
Yes, because we're going to have a spinning workshop soon, and it'll be really good to have lots of spinners there. So
great, no, it's amazing. I'm really excited by your journey, as you know, and it's going to be a really good one, and it's going to be lovely to see how much fabric that you get and what can be done with this year's fabric. And even if it's just showpieces, I'm thinking of Alan Brown, the wonderful Alan Brown with his
the wonderful Hedgerow couture.
Exactly, Hedgerow couture. So he's made this dress, and then you've got a statement piece then that you can say, look, this is what could be done.
It works. It really works. Yeah.
Exactly. So at the very least that, but hopefully much more than that.
Yeah. I mean, that is part of our thing. It's like, we do want to challenge the government about the licensing laws, but not by being activists in a way of really, we're not trying to challenge in doing something illegal. Our challenge is actually doing it. Let's just do it. Let's prove that it can be done, that it makes sense, that it can be economical, it can be regenerative, and it can make beautiful fabric. That's our rebellion, really, just I think to prove it works.
Yeah, for sure. I think another really important part of our project as well is I think a lot with sustainable fabrics and hemp fabrics, they people a lot of time just think it's brown sort of sack clothes, hippies sat in fields smoking spliffs, that kind of vibe, and we really want to pull it away from that a little bit. And I live and breathe color. I want it to be so colorful, I want it to be exciting, I want it to be fashionable, and we want to kind of produce something so beautiful in the end that we've already got people's attention from how beautiful and desirable these clothing are, and then be like, do you know what, actually this is made from hemp, and kind of educate them through that way.
It's about elevating this fibre into a completely different arena from where it is now. As Kitty said, tend to the hemp clothing you can get tends to be quite boring, really. Maybe just black, or it's just beige, and it might be an oversized shirt or a pair of dungarees or something. We want to make something really extraordinarily beautiful fabric that you really, really want.
I think what you're saying is not just hemp. It is hemp, but it's also sustainable fashion generally, and that's again a backwash of people trying to say you don't want this sustainable stuff, it's dull and boring and hangs loosely. What you want is this lovely polyester fabric which is stretchy, washes easily, and we can just chuck it away and forget about that. But the beauty of natural cloth is just completely different. Those of us who know about it, we're in love with the natural cloth. We want to share our passion, I guess.
It's a totally different thing, isn't it?
Totally different thing. And we are seeing with more traditional sustainable fashion using organic cotton and rain-fed cotton, there have been some amazing designs now involved with that, but it's getting the right designers involved, getting celebrities to wear it and say, look, I'm wearing this thing and it's amazing, and then it starts to turn the tide of thought. But it's conditioning, it's all down to conditioning. I'm very much believing in economic systems, marketing systems that condition people in their processes. And what you're saying is a rebellion, but it's not a rebellion. We're not gluing ourselves to anything. It's leading by example, isn't it?
Exactly. It's just the proof in the pudding that this can be done, and we can make this beautiful product. So come on, let's all do it.
Yeah, exactly. Let's all do it. Let's all wear it, and then the world will be a better place, and we'll all be happier. And that's a great place to end it on. So I just want to say thank you so much, ladies, for
thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Jo. Well, thanks not just for the podcast, Jo, but for your interest and your encouragement and your big support of our project. Much appreciated.
I certainly am. Thank you. It's been a pleasure, and I absolutely love the idea of Contemporary Hempery, and I hope you grow and grow and grow, and I'll enjoy being
Thank you.
So I'll talk to you girls soon. Bye.